Well, I suppose it's time to do the thing, isn't it? But before we get into the unpleasantness, of course, I want to remind you that this video is brought to you by our friends at Hellebarde Games. Hellebarde Games makes the kind of adventures they'd like to play, whether it's for 5th edition, for Castles and Crusades, or for the OSR Old School is in play at the table with Hellebarde. Whether you check them out on their website at hellebardegames.com or Drive Through RPG, right now they are having a sale on their in-print 5th edition materials. That's right. Use the checkout code 5EOOP and receive 50% off your purchase. And this covers a vast series of modules, everything from a dismal swamp infested with lizard men to a caravan trail full of adventure. That's hellebardegames.com. So, a lot of people brought this to my attention, and I want to apologize going into this video if I look and sound kind of rough. I call it the con crud. The con crud, in this case, being the virus. So yeah, this was brought to my attention. Now we're gonna look at bounding into comics. A lot of outlets have covered this, but one thing that I'm not gonna do is get reactionary and yell and throw furniture and so on. Primarily because I don't have the energy for it. I don't have the physical energy. If I tried to yell and jump up and down all angry, I would probably fall over. Nobody wants that. So let's take a look. Dungeons & Dragons to remove half species from Player's Handbook claims the entire idea is inherently racist. Let's read this article. There have been several articles on it. And then I'm going to share my views with you guys. And of course, I want your opinions too. And I will share the article link below, of course. Dungeons & Dragons to remove half species from Player's Handbook claims the entire idea is inherently racist. In their latest step forward on a long march to lost profits, Wizards of the Coast has revealed that they will be removing the concept of half species from the Dungeons & Dragons Player's Handbook on the grounds that they are, quote, not comfortable including an, quote, inherently racist, end quote, concept in the game. This forthcoming update was first announced publicly at the recent D&D Creator Summit, an event wherein Wizards of the Coast gathered a number of notable personalities ranging from game developers to content creators and provided them with a sneak peek at Dungeons & Dragons' upcoming releases. Following a rocky start to the summit marred with various technical difficulty issues, the publisher eventually hosted a demo of their upcoming D&D virtual tabletop, after which D&D lead rules designer Jeremy Crawford, senior story designer Chris Perkins, and studio art director Josh Herman appeared for a Q&A session with the attendees. Eventually, the post-demo Q&A turned to the topic of WotC's ongoing efforts to sanitize D&D, beginning with a question about how exactly the publisher makes use of their sensitivity readers. We don't send everything to the same people all the time, Crawford explained of their content review process per a summary of the event posted at EN World by forum user Brimmels and a recap provided by content creator Daniel Kwan. Different reviewers have different areas of expertise and experience. Everything gets sent to 2 people at least, sometimes more. The old inclusion review process had holes in it because they would only send out what they thought would be a problem. Now everything is sent out, so we aren't guessing what might be a problem. Our team are game designers and storytellers. We're not experts in culture and inclusion. So we're focused on what damage should this creature do. That's why everything goes through inclusion review now. So everything in our game brings out delight. Even reprints are going through the inclusion review. That's why some older books are changing too. Further elaborating on WotC's process, the designer detailed, we get a full report, then we address the issues defined, we have a conversation, then it goes back to reviewers so they can see what we did and comment as to whether it addressed the issue. We also now send the art, even the sketches, through the review process. Jeremy thinks of it as, quote, inclusion collaboration, end quote, because it's a conversation going on. To this end, Crawford confirmed that due to the game now having 4 elf variants for players to choose from when creating a character, standard elves, high elves, wolf elves, furries, I guess, and the drow, the player's handbook would now soon be revised to do away with, quote, half species. Frankly, we are not comfortable and haven't been for years with any of the options that start with half. The half construction is inherently racist, so we simply aren't going to include it in the new player's handbook. Unsurprisingly, Crawford did not expand on his accusation, and thus the reasoning behind this claim remains unknown. However, despite their removal from the player's handbook, Crawford assured players that if, quote, if someone still wants to play those character options, they'll be in the still be in D&D Beyond, and they'll still be in the 2014 Player's Handbook, end quote. It should be noted, though, that players may still be allowed to create half characters. Thanks to their removal from the core materials, such characters cannot be used in an officially sanctioned event. As of writing, it's unclear whether the Player's Handbook will be officially revised, nor when it will hit shelves. So a few thoughts. Do not think for a second that we're putting all stuff through reviews, particularly when they said we're going back and content reviewing older stuff. Don't think for a second that they won't run classic D&D, which is now everything that is not D and done. Through the same Orwellian process. Because they have stated that they will. But let's talk about the matter of half-elves or half-orcs. What Jeremy Crawford has said as the public face of Wizards of the Coast is utterly baffling. It is utterly and completely baffling. Jeremy Crawford just called the concept of two people from different races marrying and having offspring an inherently racist one. Now, you might say to me, Bill, it's a fantasy game. And I would absolutely agree. But let's consider that word for a minute. Inherently. Well, where does it inherit? From whence is it inherent? How is that concept inherently racist? Because in Crawford's febrile imaginations, in his mind's eye, he thinks the concept itself is racist. Just the very idea. Now, I myself, and look, I don't say this for argumentative credits. I don't mention this for karma or for backpats or anything. But in my own personal background, my mother's side, there is some mixed ancestry. I believe Native American on my mother's side. So my question to Mr. Crawford is, how are you so racist? How can you be so utterly racist? Not to you, my audience. Not to anyone in my audience. But to you, Mr. Crawford, to have made a statement like this. I made a mistake once upon a time, a few months ago, when I did a video talking about, well, you know, what's his name at Wizards of the Coast said something about, you know, white men can't leave RPG design management. And there was a kerfuffle, and I said, well, let's look at the context of what he said. And my video approached things from that. And I think people were kind of, I don't know, I think some people were upset at me about that. But make no mistake, there is no context that makes this good. Okay? Jeremy Crawford made an entirely racist statement. And I don't mean within the context of the game. Let's make a racist statement in the context of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Kutoans, they're deep one like fishmen, hate every race that isn't exactly like them. They want to exterminate them. They want to wipe them out. That's an awful thing. They're made up pretend fishmen. Okay? They're made up pretend fishmen. There's no real world thing that I've said that implicates someone outside in the real world, outside the realm of Dungeons and Dragons or Advanced Dungeons and Dragons or whatever you play in that statement. Jeremy Crawford, by saying mixing races is an inherently racist thing, has implicated and implied that anyone of mixed heritage is bad. That if you're Hispanic and that if your mom is Hispanic and your dad is Asian, or your mom is black and your dad is white, or that if you're you know, Native American and you know, Samoan parentage. Remember, he said the existence of half-elf, half-orc, and so on, and etc. in Dungeons and Dragons was based in an inherently racist concept. This is what he has said about you. This is... Do you understand what I'm saying? How utterly awful what he said is? I want to know what you guys think, of course. So please leave a comment down below. I know it's hard to look at something like this and like it, but if you like the fact that I shared my opinions and that I brought you this information, if you are somehow not aware of it, then give the video a like. If you dislike the video, but for whatever reason, I completely understand, because this is a thoroughly awful thing. I know that a great many of you came to this channel because of the debacle that Wizards committed with the OGL starting back in mid-January. And I am starting to ramble. I'm sorry, I'm still not feeling 100%. And you don't really give a fig about classic D&D. I hope more of you will care about classic D&D, of course. But this is something that affects the entire hobby. Beyond whatever version of D&D you love, that such a blatantly racist person is in charge of anything at Wizards of the Coast is simply mind-boggling to me. I certainly hope that louder, better voices than mine will be raised up and call for this man's ouster. I'm sorry. I'm just going to flat out say it right there. If you haven't already, please click the subscribe button, click the bell icon for notifications. I generally try and cover a lot more pleasant topics around here. We do live streams. Tonight, we're going to have Jeff Talanian, creator of Hyperborea, on here. Jeff is awesome. We've had him on the show before, and I can't wait to talk to him. That will be at 8 o'clock Eastern. Until then, guys, keep your chin up and try not to let such a horrible, pernicious evil as what Wizards of the Coast has just engaged in ruin your tabletop. Just ignore them, even though they're apparently going to try and shut folks out of official sanctioned play, whatever that might entail, for being horrible race mixers. Anyway, have a nice day. I'll see you guys this evening. Peace.